Hello peeps, and welcome back to the big one. It is time for a tutorial that several people have asked about and I have been kind of avoiding because it's a scary subject, even for me. Peeps, it is time for how the heck do I Gregtech 101. Holy crap, look at all of this stuff. We're going to get to all of this in this video, and this is actually only going to be part 1 of this series. Part 1 of this series is going to be just covering the basic changes that are made to Vanilla, Buildcraft, and other mods, as well as covering some of the other machines that Gregtech has added, the tier 1.5 machines, the tier 2 machines, the tier 3 machines, the multi-block machines, the Bronze Age, all of the world generation that's added. We're going to cover all of this in this episode. Episode 2, which I don't know how long it's going to be because this is an even scarier subject, is going to be getting into Gregtech's handling of item routing. The item routers, the electric buffers, the translocators, and all that stuff, and figuring out how they work with Gregtech. And then Gregtech 103 is going to be putting all of this together in order to build fusion reactors, which are horrifyingly scary in their own rights. But we got a lot to cover, so let's get to it. The first thing we are going to cover is vanilla changes. Let's take ourselves out of creative mode here. And let's go ahead and just give ourselves, say, a wooden pickaxe, right? Your basic wooden pickaxe. Doesn't change much. You can use wood plates for it now, but you can also use sticks. And how do you get sticks? Well, wait a minute. Wood planks only give you 2 sticks? Well, how do you get wood planks? Wait a minute. Wood only gives you 2 planks? That's right. The first thing Gregtech does, and this is a topic of hot contention, is it nerfs the wood recipe. 1 piece of wood only gets you 2 wood planks. 2 wood planks only gets you 2 sticks. So out of 1 piece of wood, you can only get 2 sticks. Now, there is a set of tools that's added by Gregtech. One of which is these saws. Let's just look up the saws. Now you can use the chainsaw from Buildcraft to do this, or you can make these iron saws, which are expendable, consumable. The iron saws are made with iron plates, hammers, and files with sticks. Oh my. The hammers are made kind of the same way as the Buildcraft hammers are. You can substitute different types of metals here to get different types of hammers. The files are made with plates and steel rods. Well, the steel rod is made with a file or a lathe. Of course, I'm not exactly sure how the hell you're supposed to get a file if it requires a rod. You know what, I bet the iron file doesn't require one. Oh yeah, the iron file just takes a stick. So, there you go. But the basic tools that it adds are the file, the stick, or not the stick, the file, the hammer, and the saw. And there's a crowbar in here too. Lily? No. Alright, so if you are making plates using the traditional recipe with the, yeah, so you can still make plates with hammers. You get your iron hammer, you get your ingot, 2 ingots, and a hammer. Well, it has to be on a crafting table. You take your 2 ingots, you take your hammer on top, that's still going to get you a plate, but it's going to burn some durability off the hammer. 4 durability in this case. These things are consumable, so you have to keep that in mind. But now we've got our wooden pickaxe through much turmoil, having to spend a lot of wood to get just a basic wooden pickaxe. Let's go ahead and carve up some stone with it, right? Wait a minute. Look down at my hotbar at the durability of this wooden pickaxe. that wooden pickaxe was only enough to get me 13 cobblestone. Normally it's 60. What the heck? Okay, well, let's go ahead and get ourselves a stone pickaxe then. At least that's still made the same way. Let's go mining with that too. Wait a minute. The stone pickaxe is taking damage already, and quite a bit of it. That's right, the wooden... Lily. The wooden and stone tools are highly nerfed in Gregtech, because they're so easy to make. So, you can make your wooden tools, you can make your stone tools, but don't expect them to last nearly as long as they would in vanilla. They're not going to. Well, that means we gotta go to iron tools. So, let's make ourselves an iron pickaxe. Oh, wait a minute. That requires plates now. It requires plates, it requires sticks, it requires a hammer, it requires a file. Holy crap. Well, you know, getting all of that iron is going to require us to do a lot of caving. So we better have some protection. Let's get ourselves an iron... Oh, crap. Yep. Iron armor now requires plates too. And hammers and files and all that crap. Basically, all of your basic tools, all of your basic metal tools are now going to require twice as much resources in the early game. That's a pretty serious nerf. However, never fear. We can smash ore with a hammer, right? Well, you can, but you're only going to get one. So, don't even bother. Now, we've gotten through all of the early game stuff with vanilla. Let's see how it changes industrial craft. Well, the first thing it does is, if we take a look at the industrial craft recipes here, we've got our basic... Where is the furnace? Let's take a look at the furnace, if I can ever find the stupid thing. Electrolyzer, pump, extractor, macerator, electric furnace. There it is. Let's take a look at the recipe for that. Oh, it has no recipe. Well, why is that? It's because Gregtech adds its own version of the vanilla industrial craft machines. So let's take a look at Gregtech. And yeah, there is a lot of stuff added here, isn't there? So let's take a look at the automatic e-furnace. The recipe for the automatic e-furnace is... Oh wait, what is this? A high-pressure steam furnace? What? That's right. Gregtech adds a Bronze Age to the game. We're going to get to that in a minute. So, for industrial craft, it replaces all of your early game industrial craft stuff with its own versions. We'll get to the other stuff in a minute here. Now, the most recent version of industrial craft has the machine overload disabled, so you can hook as many machines up to a line, and there can be any voltage pumping through that line, and it will not cause you any problems whatsoever. Which sounds really, really awesome. Well, let's go ahead and connect up the Gregtech version of a macerator. That's right, be careful with your wiring, peeps, because even though these BatBots output 32 each, and the macerator is capable of taking 32, Gregtech relies on the new Industrial Craft Energy Net calculations, and if it's connected to a line providing a total of 64 volts, it will blow up. So be careful of the voltages you're supplying to your Gregtech machines. It does matter. Another thing to note is that Gregtech machines are very fragile. Let's get ourselves another one of those macerators. And actually, let's get ourselves 2 of those macerators. We're going to hook them up just like this. And we're going to go into creative mode. And we're going to... Oh yeah, let's go ahead and copy that BatBox. We'll put that BatBox on here, just like that. Let's give it a battery. We'll throw the battery in here, let it start charging up, and that's going to be perfectly fine, because these things can take 32, and we're only providing 32. So, no problem, right? Well, let's say we want to move one of these macerators. Let's break it. Not in creative mode, preferably. Let's go ahead and break this macerator. Oh, this is taking a while. That's right, these machines are extremely hard to break. More power! Oh wow, look at this! You can't even break it with a diamond drill quickly. Well, there's a reason for this, peeps. If you were to sit here all of the time that it takes to break one of these machines with this drill, it's not going to act like the industrial craft machines and give you back the machine casing. Oh no. It's actually going to overload the line and blow up everything connected to the line. Now, I'm not sure if it'll do it with the low-tier machines like the macerator, but the higher-tier machines like the industrial electrolyzer and the centrifuge and all of the multi-block machines, they will definitely do it. And I'm probably standing way too close to this. I'll probably get killed when this blows up if it does. Oh, yep, see how that blew up? Now, it didn't blow up the macerator, which I'm actually kind of surprised about, but it did blow up on its own. It was actually a small explosion, too. Okay, so let's go ahead and cover, real quick, some of the new toys that Gregtech adds for us, because I forgot to do that in the Industrial Craft Reloaded episode. Let's do it now. If we take a look down at the item pages, there's a lot of items added here. There's a whole bunch of different new liquid cells. There's a whole bunch of different new stuff here. There's a whole bunch of panels, which we'll cover in a little bit. But Gregtech adds some new nifty devices for us. It adds an iron mortar, which you can use to turn ingots into dust for your early game alloys. It adds its own tier of battery packs. It adds a lithium battery pack, which holds 600,000 EU, compared to the equivalent for industrial craft, which I believe holds 300,000. It's made using lithium batteries, which are made with aluminum or battery alloy plates and lithium cells with some insulated cable. It's nice. Then there's a Lapatron pack, which holds a whopping 100 million EU and requires, oh, holy crap, energy packs and iridium enforced plates and energy flow circuits and Lapatronic energy orbs, and these are just like super expensive. Like, you really don't know how expensive these things are until you try creating them in game. But it also adds a new tier of saw, which holds much more power, and it adds a new tier of drill, which holds a lot more power. It also adds an electric rock cutter, which has the Silk Touch 3 effect. So if you have a piece of ore that you really want to get, we'll go into that in a few minutes here, you can use that to harvest the ore directly. It also adds jackhammers, which are very bad at harvesting ores, but very good at harvesting stone. Let's give ourselves a jackhammer. Let's go ahead and put down some stone. We're going to jackhammer our way through it. Notice how fast I went through that? Let's do the same with some iron ore. Lily, no. Notice I can't break the iron ore with the jackhammer. Diamond drill still goes through it fine. Jackhammers, though, do not. These are designed to mine quickly through stone, nothing else. Now, Gregtech changes industrial craft, we know that. Gregtech changes vanilla, we know that. What might also surprise you is that Gregtech will actually change a lot more mods. To start out with, pretty much anything that requires plates in other mods are going to require, that require ingots in other mods, are going to start requiring plates. Certain recipes, like the pulverizer and thermal expansion, will start requiring diamonds to make them more expensive. Buildcraft machines start requiring diamond drills instead of diamond pickaxes to make them more expensive. Yeah, Gregtech is a pretty far-reaching mod. It is designed to extend the late game as far as possible and give you tons and tons of things to do down the road without having to, scrap a world and start all over again. It's designed to keep you busy, keep you with goals to move towards, and make things much, much harder. Hence all of these changes to mods that would be considered quote-unquote OP with Gregtech installed. So, let's go ahead and cover world generation. Gregtech adds a lot of it, actually. The first type of world generation it adds 2 new types of stone to the world. It adds black granite and red granite. If we give ourselves some black granite here and pop it down, preferably not in creative mode, you're going to notice you can't mine it with a stone pickaxe. You're going to notice you can't mine it with an iron pickaxe. Nope, you have to have a diamond pickaxe to harvest this. Now, what's it good for? Well, if you smelt it, you get the red granite back. If you use 4 in a row there, you get red granite brick, and mobs can't spawn on that. So this actually gives you a very convenient way to harvest resources for your base that mobs can't spawn in. Which means if you like to keep dark rooms, you can make the floor out of red or black granite bricks, and you can safely have your dark room. Don't have to worry about it. It's awesome stuff. It also adds a ton of ores. We have here galena ore, iridium ore, ruby ore, sapphire ore, and bauxite ore. A little further down here, we also have tetrahedrite ore, cassiterite ore, and nickel ore. Now these are all overworld generation. They spawn in different areas. Galena ore, I believe, spawns pretty much anywhere. It's pretty common. It's an alloy of copper and of lead and silver. Iridium ore, yes, iridium has an ore, is exceedingly rare. It has about a 60% chance to generate in a chunk. And when it generates, it only generates 1 piece. So this stuff is ridiculously rare. Most chunks, you may not even find iridium ore, because that 60% is actually just kind of a guideline. The way the generation for iridium ore works is it generates the area, and then it scans the area and picks a random block inside that area. And if that block is stone, it'll place a piece of iridium ore there. If it's not, if it's air, or if it's another ore, or if it's grass or dirt or something like that, it will not place iridium in that chunk, and it will skip it. So, nasty, nasty stuff to find. If you find it, make sure you use Silk Touch to pick it up, because you can grind this to get increased rewards out of it. If you break it with a pickaxe, well, that's kind of pointless. If you break this iridium ore with a pickaxe or a drill, you're only going to get 1 piece of iridium out of it. Whereas if you run this through higher level processing, you can get more rewards out of it. You can get platinum and iridium dust and all that stuff out of it as well. Rubies. Rubies are only found in desert biomes and hot places. Breaking this will give you 1 ruby. It is affected by fortune, so you can use your fortune tools on it. Rubies are important because they are one of the only sources of chrome, and chrome is a requirement for many of the high-level machines. So, lots and lots of rubies needed. If you find them, it's best to Silk Touch them or fortune them to get the highest rewards out of them. You can make chrome using redstone, but it uses so much it's almost not worth it. Sapphire. Sapphires are only found in oceans, very, very wet areas. Swamps don't count. Swamps aren't wet enough to produce sapphires. Sapphires don't have a whole lot of uses in Gregtech, but one of the most important uses that they have is that they can replace diamonds in some recipes. If you take a look at sapphires, sapphire dust, oh, did they change it? I think they changed it. It used to be that sapphires were the equivalent of diamonds for lapotron crystals, but I think they changed it because of the change to lapotrons. So now you can get the sapphire dust, which basically just becomes aluminum dust. So sapphire, not that important anymore, I guess. Yeah. So let's skip the sapphire. Bauxite, though. This is important. Bauxite is one of your only sources of aluminum. We take a look at bauxite ore. You can grind it down into bauxite dust, which, if processed further, will give you aluminum dust and titanium dust. It also gives you some hydrogen and compressed air as a side effect. Now, it also adds generation to the nether. It adds pyrite ore, cinnabar ore, and sphalerite ore. Pyrite is an alloy of sulfur and iron. If you just smelt it, you get iron like you normally would. But if you process it down a little bit further and get your pyrite dust, and then process that in an electrolyzer, you can actually get sulfur dust and iron dust out of it. Or you can skip an entire step and you can go straight to a blast furnace with this. And if you use calcite, which is calcium carbonate, you can get 2 iron for each pyrite, which is pretty nice. Cinnabar. Cinnabar is used to get cinnabar dust, which if processed further will give you mercury. And mercury can be used in the industrial grinder, or it can be used with single-use battery recipes, it can be used to make illuminators, but it can be used to get higher increased yields out of some of your ores in the industrial grinder. We'll get to that in a little bit here. Sphalerite ore. Sphalerite ore processes down into sphalerite dust. Shouldn't be surprising. This is one of your only sources of zinc. It also gives you some sulfur, but this is where you get your zinc from. It also adds ore generation to the end. Holy crap. It adds sheldonite ore, which is a much more reliable source of platinum and iridium. You can take a look here and see that smelting it straight up will give you platinum, but processing it down will give you small piles of iridium dust. Olivine, well, it's kind of boring. It gives you olivine gems, which are required for some of the higher end circuits. Sodalite can give you some aluminum, but it also gives you sodalite dust, which is used as a replacement for lapis in some recipes. Now, we'll get back over to these other ores. Nickel ore, shouldn't be any surprise, gives you nickel. Let's get the tungstate out of the way. Tungstate is your only source of tungsten in the world, and this only generates in the end, or in very, very small quantities in the overworld. I believe it only generates in black cobblestone when it does, the black granite. Tetrahedrite ore is an ore of copper, which is found, I believe, only in extreme hills biomes, other high places. So, if you find this, it generally tends to spawn in huge veins. It gives you quite a bit of copper. It's very much worth picking up. Cassiterite ore only spawns in snowy biomes, like taigas. This is an ore of tin, and again, it spawns in large quantities when you find it, so it's well worth harvesting. You may notice the block textures on this look a little weird. What's that all about? Well, damn you, Gregtech. Greg has figured out a way to make ores camouflage themselves. So if we take this piece of ore here, and we put down a piece of stone, all of a sudden, the texture for this changes. On the top we can see that it's galena ore, but if you were to look at it from the side, you'd never know. That's right, ores camouflage themselves if they're next to more stone. Now, the texture of the ore depends on how much other ore is nearby. If there's nothing touching it except for other ore, you'll get this bright cherry texture here. But if there's any stone touching it, or if there's large amounts of stone touching it, then you get the stone concealed textures. You can turn this off in the config. A lot of the changes that happen in Gregtech you can turn off in the config. So if there's something you really, really don't like, you can probably turn it off. Alright, we have spent 25 minutes just covering world generation and changes. Let's go ahead and get into some of the basic machines. We're going to start with the Bronze Age. That's right, Gregtech adds its own Bronze Age to the game. It starts with coal boilers and high pressure coal boilers, and this is a fluid pipe. Yes, Gregtech adds its own version of fluid pipes that you can use to transmit fluids around. Coal boilers, it should not surprise you, run on water and coal. Put the coal in there, it's going to start heating up, and as it heats up, it's going to start generating steam, which will get pumped through all of these fluid pipes into these steam-powered machines here. The sturdy grinder, the steam furnace, the steam smelter, the steam-powered forge hammer, the steam compressor, and the squeezing extractor. Well, why wouldn't you just go straight for the industrial craft machines, the electrical versions of it? Well, two reasons. The first is that rubber can no longer be gathered by smelting sticky resin. You have to have an extractor, which means you have to build the squeezing extractor to get your first rubber. That's kind of a pain in the ass, right? Second is that the generator now requires steel in order to make it. So you have to have steel before you can even think about generating any sort of industrial craft power. Holy crap! How do you get steel? Well, we'll get to that in a second. How are we doing for processing here? Are we starting to heat up here? Oh, we're getting there, but we're not producing enough yet. Let's go ahead and start up our high-pressure coal boiler. Basically, just a larger, more fuel-costly, but more productive version of the small coal boiler. Produces steam, which powers your machines. Now, these machines, I'm not going to lie, they're pretty slow. And we gotta have enough power to we have to have enough steam to start processing this before we can even start discussing this. I should have started these boiling earlier, but I kind of wanted to do it on camera. While we wait for this to heat up, let's discuss how you get your first steel. Well, there's a bronze version of a blast furnace. It even says to get your first steel. Recipe's not bad. Some bricks, a wrench, and some plates. Now mind you, these bronze plates require 2 bronze to get each one. So it's a total of 8 bronze there. And remember that Industrial Craft nerfs the bronze recipe so that you only get... Where's the bronze dust? There it is. No, wrong one. You only get 2 bronze out of 4 ore. So bear in mind that the bronze is pretty expensive. So, we got our bronze blast furnace. We're going to pop it down here and we're going to start making us some steel, right? Well, no. Gregtech adds the bronze blast furnace, but it made it into a multi-block machine. This is going to be a common theme with Gregtech. If you take a look here, you're going to see that there's a pattern here. There's a green dot there. There's orange dots all around here. This is multiple levels of the machine. So, if we take a look here, the bottom level says that it is 9 in a square, right? So let's make a square of 9 of these bronze-plated bricks. How do you make a bronze-plated brick? Oh, God. bricks, hammers, and 6 bronze plates to get 2 of these bronze plated bricks. Yeah, this is an expensive machine, but this is the only way to get your first steel unless you're running something else like Railcraft. So, the next level of this machine is 7 bricks with the bronze plated blast furnace in the wall. So, let's go ahead and do that. The 3rd and the 4th level are just a ring. Notice that the pattern changed when I completed the multi-block. Well, now, if we take ourselves some iron and some coal, 4 pieces to be exact, and we toss this in here and we wait a fairly long time, this will get us 1 piece of steel out of 1 iron and 4 coal. Notice how long it's taking, though. You'll want to build this thing as early as you possibly can, because it takes forever to make steel. By now, we should have some steam generating in here, and we do. We even have some from here. So, we can take a look here and we can see that we got crushed iron ore. Now, one thing that I noticed about the Gregtech machines is that they generally tend to glitch out a little bit when you first place them, and you have to kind of give them a whack once with a wrench to get them to continue working. And doing that changes the facing, changes the way it looks. So we got ourselves our crushed iron ore. We can throw it in the steam furnace here, and you can see that this is pretty slow. The steam smelter, if we have our gold and our silver, this is going to allow us to make our electrum, but again, it's pretty slow. The steam-powered forge hammer, if we have ourselves some iron, we can throw that in there. But, oh wait, it's not doing anything. It takes 2 to make a plate still. So all this does is prevent you from burning up the durability on your tools. Compressor, well, that works like you might expect. It compresses 9 of an ingots into a block. Yes, you can't do that manually anymore. You have to use the compressor. It also compresses lapis blocks and redstone blocks and all that stuff. Pretty much anything that requires a block is going to take a compressor. It also uses the regular industrial craft recipes. And the squeezing extractor, this is where you get your first rubber. Now the high pressure steam furnace, this is a little bit faster. Let's come over here and get ourselves some more of this crushed iron ore that we had. Let's put that in here, and you'll see that the high pressure steam furnace, yeah, this runs a bit faster. It's still not great, but it works. Notice that it stopped processing though. Got to give it the whack with the wrench, not like that. Let's go ahead and put this back in here. You got to shift click it with the wrench in order to reorient it so it'll actually take the steam. It takes a while to fill up with enough steam to work, but basically this is how you make all of your very, very early game steam stuff. This is the Bronze Age, headed by Gregtech. We come over here, take a look at this. Yeah, we're still working on our first piece of steel. I wasn't lying when I said this takes a while. Alright, we've finally gotten out of the Bronze Age. We've gotten our first few pieces of steel. It takes 16 to make your first generator. Let's go ahead and make our first industrial craft electrical machines. Alright. We come over here and we've made our automatic e-furnace, our automatic macerator, our automatic extractor, compressor, and recycler. Great stuff. These pretty much all use the bronze version with some circuits and some redstone. Circuits are still made the same way, they just require a plate. You might have noticed, though, that all of the recipes that I've been going into require that iron and not the refined iron. That's actually an industrial craft change. If you didn't catch that, you might want to go watch Industrial Craft 101A, because the refined iron basically no longer exists. We've already got our basic machines here that are added to us by Gregtech. These are the tier, I call them tier 1.5 machines, because it's basically a step up from the industrial craft machines. It features automatic output, and you can also transmit power from one machine to another using the buttons here. You can unlink or link the inventories here. Honestly, I'm not sure how that works. And you can set automatic ejection here. On the back of these machines, you'll notice there's kind of a square. If you have a chest attached to that, it will automatically output into the chest for you, which is a nice upgrade from the industrial craft machines. But of course, we don't stop there. Let's check out the tier 2 machines. We have the microwave oven, the alloy smelter, plate bending machine, the assembling machine, the plate cutting machine, the lathe, the automatic wire mill, the automatic canning machine. Wow, what do these do? Well, the microwave oven works basically like a faster version of an oven. However, it is intended for food and food only. If we put food in there, it cooks it nice and fast. Man, that's really fast. Well, let's make it cook up some cobblestone for us, right? It's got to be fast at that, too. And it is. But if you're cooking anything other than food in this, let's say we try cooking up some purified crushed iron ore. Oh, holy crap! Yep, don't put metal in microwaves, peeps. It doesn't end well. So, alloy smelter. Electric version of the regular smelter back there. Basically, you use it to create your alloys. You put bars or dusts in here, and it gives you an output. For example, we have gold, we have silver, you get electrum. Plate bending machine. This works a lot like the industrial craft metal former, except it is much, much faster at doing it. You can see here, let's find our iron. Yeah, an iron plate only takes 5 seconds to make in this plate bending machine. In a standard machine, it takes quite a bit longer. The plate cutting machine, you can see, will cut various things down into plates. If you put a plate in there, you get item casings out. Again, this works very much like the plate cutting version on the metal former. Wire mill, should be no surprise, works pretty much the same way. Gets you higher yields out of your ores if you're making wire. This is also how you get your soldering lead for use with soldering tools. Honestly, I'm not sure what the soldering tools do, but this is how you get the lead. It also gets you your heating coils once you start dealing with some of the higher level coils. Automatic canning machine. This is actually basically just a down step from the canning machine. All it basically really does is just fill tin cans of food. It can also be used to empty cells. Let's come back to the machine we skipped. We have the lathe here, which basically will take nuggets and turn them into rounds. It'll take bars and turn them into rods. It'll take rods and turn them into bolts. It'll take bolts and turn them into screws, which you can use to fasten plates onto things. We'll come back and touch the assembling machine. The assembling machine has a crap load of recipes. The assembling machine is basically like an automatic version of a crafting table for some things. Like if you throw 8 compressed coal balls and a brick in there, you get the coal chunk. That's an industrial craft recipe. Notice how long it takes. Automation of this stuff is not cheap and it's not fast, but you can do it. You can also use it to get higher returns on some of your electronic components at the cost of EU and time. Advanced circuit parts and advanced circuit boards, if you put these together, end up being slightly cheaper than building one by hand. It's also the only way to get some of your higher end processors like data control circuits, energy flow circuits, data orbs, and stuff like that. You have to have them for some of these things. Alright, so, covered the assembly machine. Basically, this is how you make all of your circuits, or the more advanced circuits anyway. You can use these to make your torches. You can use them to make pretty much anything you could in a crafting table. I don't know why you would some of it, because it costs power and time, but hey, you have the option. So, that pretty much covers all of the Tier 1.5 and Tier 2 machines. Now, the next step up is the Tier 3 machines, which I only really think there are 2 of those. The difference between the Tier 1.5 and the Tier 2 and the Tier 3 machines is that between Tier 2 and Tier 3, there is a substantial difference in how they handle power. Most notably, these machines here all have power requirements for their different operations. Like this one, if you're assembling the bricks and the compressed coal balls, it takes 4 EU per tick. The process will run on less than that. It'll just run slower. So you can see here, it'll take 20 seconds at 4 EU per tick. If this is only getting 2 EU per tick, it'll take 40 seconds. It'll still work, it'll just work half as fast. That behavior should be pretty familiar to anyone who's playing with Gregtech, because it's how Buildcraft handles power by default. However, once we step up to the Tier 3 machines, the industrial electrolyzer, the centrifuge, and I guess the chemical reactor too, these machines are Tier 3. These machines will not function that way. They have a very specific power requirement, and that power requirement must be met at all times while the machine is operating, because if it is not, it will reset its process. At least I'm pretty sure that happens with this tier. It's either Tier 3 or Tier 4 that happens, but still, these machines are much more finicky on their power usage. So, you have the industrial electrolyzer, which, obviously the name means it's an electrolyzer. It takes electrolyzed water cells and turns them into hydrogen, or it takes water cells and turns them into electrolyzed water cells. That should be no surprise. But you can also do other things with it. For example, you can take bone meal and turn it into calcium cells. You can take sand and get silicon and compressed air out of it. You can take calcium carbonate and separate it down into its core components, and etc., etc., etc. This machine also lets you process clay into aluminum and lithium. Let's see. It will let you process ruby dust down into chrome dust and aluminum dust. So, this is why rubies are so important. It takes 6 rubies to make 1 piece of chrome, and it takes a lot of chrome to make some of these machines. So, that's why you need all those rubies. So, industrial electrolyzer generally takes things and separates them down into their core components. The industrial centrifuge does kind of the same thing, except it's kind of a lower tier machine, and it runs a little bit slower. It can also do some other basic processes, like if you take 64 seeds, you can get a can of seed oil out of it. Same thing with melon seeds, pumpkin seeds. You can take ice cells and get the ice back out. You can separate magma cream down into blaze powder and slime balls. There are a lot of things that you can do with this. You can take dirt and get plant balls out of it, so it gives you a good use for your dirt. It takes a long time, but it works. Golden apple, you can get methane from the apple, and you can get the gold back out of it. You can process all your different foods down into methane, which we'll get into a use for methane in a little bit here. But there are a lot of different things that you can do here. Now, one of the most notable, sticky resin, becomes rubber, compressed plants, and plant balls. This is actually a more efficient recipe for the rubber, because normally you would only get 12 out of an extractor. You get 14 out of an industrial centrifuge. Time might throw you off a little bit, but remember, this is processing 4 at once. So a regular centrifuge is going to take, or a regular extractor is going to take about that long to process 4, and you're only going to get 12 rubber and no plant balls. So the industrial centrifuge is actually a pretty efficient way of doing that. You can actually take lava buckets and process them down into copper, tin, electrum, and tungsten. You can take netherrack dust and get redstone, sulfur, gold, and coal out of it. you can take endstone and get helium, sand, and tungsten. Get out of there. And so on and so forth. Dark ashes become regular ashes. Now, there's a recipe in here that I want to show you. I have to find it first. All of these recipes are just various things, like nichrome becomes nickel and chrome, so on and so forth. Where is the redstone recipe? Dirty pile of charcoal dust becomes charcoal dust with only 60 EU. Marble dust becomes magnesium and calcite. I wonder if they took out the redstone recipe. Nope, there it is. 10 redstone becomes silicon, mercury, pyrite, and ruby dust. So, 10 redstone becomes 1 ruby, 6 ruby becomes 1 chrome. A stack of redstone is equivalent to 1 chrome, with a very large processing time attached. But you can also get some iron out of it. You get some mercury, which is used for higher end processing in the industrial grinder. You get some silicon, which can be used to make your solar panels. So, it's worth it. Then the chemical reactor allows you to react 2 different chemicals together to get a chemical component back. For example, carbon plus 4 hydrogen equals CH4, methane. Nitrogen plus carbon is nitrocarbon. Calcium carbonate. Coal fuel and glycerol gives you nitro coal fuel. Diesel and glycerol gives you nitrodiesel. Nitrogen dioxide. Sodium persulfate. Glycerol. Sodium sulfide. Sulfuric acid. And last but not least, compressed air plus hydrogen equals water. So, this is your Tier 3 machines. Still only single blocks, requiring more power over longer periods of time, but with improved results over the original tier of machines. Now, it's time to switch over to the Tier 4 machines. For that, we're going to come over here. These machines are multi-blocks. They require a whole bunch of different things, a whole bunch of different configurations, and you can tell by clicking on the block exactly what the configuration is. Just follow the pattern here. This one, the bottom level, has to be this layout. Anytime you see orange, it's talking about bronze-plated bricks. If you see light gray dots, that's talking about standard casings. Dark gray dots is talking about a reinforced casing. A bright pink dot is talking about an advanced casing. A blue dot is a water source block, and a red dot is a lava source block. The green dot marks where this machine is supposed to be in relation to the other casings. So you can see this one here. The bottom level is a pattern of regular and reinforced. The middle one is a whole bunch of reinforced with an empty center. The top layer is the standard machine casings with the reinforced, and then the implosion compressor goes on top. The implosion compressor allows you to take various dusts and alloy ingots and blast them using industrial TNT into other forms. You can see here, coal chunk, get out of there. A coal chunk plus 8 industrial TNT blasts into an industrial diamond. 4 emerald dust and 24 industrial TNT blasts into 3 emeralds. You do lose a little bit here, but if you happen to have a bunch of emerald dust laying around that you got from somewhere, you can get emeralds back out of it. Diamond dust blasts into industrial diamonds. So, you can actually take regular diamonds, grind them down, and blast them into industrial diamonds if you have a need for industrial diamonds for some reason. There are certain recipes that only work with industrial diamonds. red garnets become red garnets, so on and so forth. The most notable recipe is the iridium alloy ingot. You can't just take an iridium ingot and compress it into a plate and expect it to work. Most recipes that require iridium plates actually require the iridium reinforced plates, which means you need to take an iridium alloy ingot, which is 4 advanced alloy, 4 iridium plates, and an industrial diamond. Notice it's not a regular one, it's an industrial. Gets you the alloy ingot, and then you blast that with no less than 8 industrial TNT to get an iridium reinforced plate, plus some dark ashes. This is the industrial sawmill. This will take a piece of wood and process it down into 6 planks and some wood pulp. Requires water for its operation. You can either supply water cells, or I believe you can actually pump water directly into it. But it will get you 6 out of each one. If you process rubber wood, it'll get you 16 wood pulp plus a sticky resin out of each one of those. So, a little more efficient because you can use the wood pulp to make into planks and then use that for other stuff. This is the vacuum freezer. This is a very high-end machine that requires a lot of the special advanced casings, and it doesn't really have a whole lot of uses. What it will do, though, is it will take a 10K coolant cell, and it'll give you a 10K coolant cell? What? What it's not telling you here is that it can take a damaged, i.e. extremely hot, 10K coolant cell, and give you a recharged one back out of it. So, if you have coolant that's run through your nuclear reactors that needs to be cooled off in a hurry, this is a way to do it. It'll also take water and freeze it into ice. It'll take hot tungsten steel ingots and turn them into tungsten steel. When you first pull tungsten steel out of the blast furnace, it's extremely hot. You have to vacuum freeze it to make it usable. This is probably the highest endgame metal that Gregtech offers. And it'll also cool helium plasma down into helium. This is the industrial grinder. Think of this as a macerator, except better. This will take various types of resources and grind them down into their components like a macerator, except with possibility of more outputs. You can see here, if you grind uranium ore, you get purified crushed uranium ore. Since there's water used in the process, you get purified ore directly out of this. You don't have to put it through the ore washer. You also get some lead and a small pile of plutonium dust, which in the current version of Gregtech, I believe, is totally bugged because you can't use it for anything. Yeah, plutonium dust that you get out of this right now is totally useless. But you can grind your sheldonite using some of that mercury that you got from processing redstone to get 3 platinum and 2 small piles of iridium dust out of it. Or you can use plain old water if you only want to get 2 platinum out of it. Grind down your nether brick to get netherrack dust. Grind down your cassiterite. You get 4 crushed tin ore plus 2 small piles of tin, so cassiterite through here is very worthwhile. You can grind down your diamond ore to get some small piles of diamond dust and coal dust. Grind down your iridium ore. You get iridium plus 6 of that, 2 of that. Or you can use mercury and get 2 full piles of platinum dust instead of 2 small piles. Grind down your redstone, you get 10 redstone. Grind down your rubies, well, you get a little bit more than you would out of rubies, but you also get a couple of small piles of chrome out of it. Small piles of chrome become chrome dust. It is very worthwhile to use the industrial grinder to process your rubies. This is a distillation tower. Think of this like a Buildcraft distillery. You throw in 16 oil cells and 33 empty cells, and over the course of 800 seconds, it will take those 16 oil cells, and it will give you 16 diesel cells, which is the equivalent of fuel in Buildcraft, 16 sulfuric acid cells, 1 glycerol cell, and 16 methane cells. Or you can process biomass cells to get ethanol. Notice how fast that goes. 2 seconds to get ethanol? That's ridiculously fast compared to the forestry bioreactors. So, distillation tower. You can see, though, it takes a lot of these advanced machine casings, which require tons of chrome to make them. So this is a very expensive but very worthwhile machine for endgame. Now, there's one multi-block machine I have not placed here because it requires some special instruction. That is the industrial blast furnace. We'll take the industrial blast furnace here. We're also going to get ourselves a bunch of different types of casings. Let's go ahead and put all of these on the hotbar. Let's put the blast furnace down. You can see there's a blinking red light here. All of the multi-block machines share this functionality. If the machine cannot function for some reason, there will be a blinking red light on it. If it can function, there will be a green light. We can see here that it says incomplete machine casing. There's a bunch of light gray dots and some red dots, which means we need lava. So let's go ahead and build exactly what it wants. Put some lava there. Put some more lava there. And then we'll finish it up. And that is going to give us a regular solid green light. And we'll keep it creative and just go that way. Let me clean a few things out of my inventory here. Get us some more room because we're going to need some more stuff. And if we take a look at this, this thing is now operational. Heat capacity, 1,520 degrees Kelvin. What is that? Well, if you take a look at the recipes, these recipes require different heats in order to work. Get out of there. There's a plastic bag on the floor and my cats are having a heyday with it. You can see here that silicon cells, 2 silicon cells, will become a silicon plate, but it requires a heat capacity of 1500. Well, we have 1520, so we can do that, right? Turning iron into steel only requires 25 seconds with this machine. It does require 2 coal dust, but we can do that too. However, now let's take a look at aluminum. Aluminum requires 1700 degrees Kelvin. Well, our blast furnace can't get that hot, so it can't do anything with it. There are 2 different ways that you can upgrade the blast furnace for higher temperatures. The first, and most notable, is just replacing the machine casings on the outside. With a standard machine casing, for the entire thing, and 2 buckets of lava, the heat capacity on an industrial blast furnace is 1520. If you replace one of the machine casings with a reinforced, now it's 1540. So each one of these that you replace gets you 20 more. Replace that with an advanced, and now it's 1560. So each one of these that you replace with an advanced machine casing gets you 40 over the basic. The industrial blast furnace itself is crafted using 4 copper-nickel heating coils, which are, by its own admission, cheap and simple heating coils. Well, if we take a look at coils, you'll see that there are 3 different types of coils. There's copper-nickel, canthal, and nichrome. Canthal and nichrome are listed as standard heating coils and advanced heating coils. If we take a look at the canthal heating coil, wire mill, 4 canthal ingots gives you 1 heating coil. Canthal ingots is an alloy of iron, aluminum, and chrome. Gets you 3. 4 gets you a standard canthal heating coil, which means you need 16 ingots of this. If you get yourself 4 of these canthal heating coils, hold them in your hand, remember 1560, and then right-click this, it will replace the heating coils. Normally it will consume those, but I'm in creative mode, so it doesn't. It will replace the internal heating coils. Now you have capacity of 2060, which is pretty amazing. Get yourself 4 nichrome, which each one of these is made with 5 nichrome ingots, which is made out of nichrome dust, which is 4 nickel and 1 chrome. Get yourself 4 of these, we go from 2060 to 2560. So replacing the coils gets you a 500-degree jump for each increase in the coil. Now you have to go canthal and then nichrome. You can't just go straight to nichrome. You have to put the canthals in first. But huge increase from that. However, we're still not hot enough to process that tungsten steel. You need 3000 degrees for that. If we go through and replace a whole bunch of these with the advanced machine casings, when you're doing this, remember that there is lava in here, so you have to be careful. But if you knock out all of the standard casings and replace them all with the reinforced casings, you end up with a industrial blast furnace that can run at 3,880 degrees Kelvin. Obviously that's overkill. You don't need to have full advanced machine casings. You can get away with some reinforced and some advanced. I don't even think you really need advanced if you're willing to replace the heating coils. But you can replace some or all of the machine casing, and you can upgrade the coils in order to get higher temperatures out of the blast furnace. Now, higher temperatures doesn't make it any more efficient at processing the lower end stuff. It just makes it so you can process the higher end stuff. Now, if you take a look at this, these things require ridiculous amounts of energy for some of this stuff. 500 EU per tick in order to handle hot tungsten steel. And this is one of those machines where if you're not providing it what it's asking for, it's going to blow up on you. Well, the industrial blast furnace itself can only handle 128. How the hell are you supposed to do that? Well, you upgrade it. The transformer upgrades from Buildcraft do work on Gregtech machines. But if you look at this, there's no place in here to put this, right? There's no slots on the side. That's because transformer upgrades are applied directly to the machine. Did you hear the click? If we wrench this machine off now, we have an industrial blast furnace with 1 transformer upgrade. This has been upgraded to handle the next tier of power. This can take 512 EU per tick now. Put it down. Right click again. And oh, well, it's not going to do anything. Well, that's because this transformer upgrade that you're using isn't powerful enough. You need a more powerful one. The HV transformer upgrade will allow you to upgrade it to take EV. Now it has 2 transformer upgrades. Unfortunately, there we go. Did you hear the click? Now it has 3 transformer upgrades. This can now take quad EV, so it can take 8,192 EU per tick now. So you can now pump as much power into this thing without having to worry about what's going to happen to it. And believe me, you don't want to overload these machines. It's not pretty. Let's go ahead and spend a minute clearing out our inventory. Because we've now discussed all of the higher-end machines. Now, obviously, with all of these new machines, we're going to need new forms of power storage and new forms of power generation, aren't we? Well, you can still use the bat box, the CESU, the MFE, and the MFSU from Buildcraft, but what if those aren't enough? Well, that's when you have the Gregtech storage blocks, the AESU, the IDSU, the charger box, battery charger, and the large charger. Let's handle the chargers first, because they're kind of unique in how they handle their power. If we take a look at these chargers, the charger box for storing energy using batteries and similar items. Max EU per pulse in, 32, out, 32. EU storage is a little over 10K, possible upgrades T, What that means is that this charger box, by default, has one slot in it. Well, you can take a battery, and you can put that battery in this slot, and this now acts as a bat box with a storage capacity of about 20,000. Doesn't sound like a whole lot, but if you have a bunch of extra batteries laying around, why not, right? It's a good way to make sure, fairly cheaply also, that a machine is only getting 32 EU per pulse. If you don't want to waste all of the material of making bat boxes, you can use these to give yourself a little extra power buffer. The next tier up is the battery box. Well, a battery box is made, well, let's check this one out first. The charger box is made with just a regular old iron machine hull or a machine box, some iron plates, a battery, a circuit, and some copper wire. Or you can use aluminum if you happen to have aluminum laying around. That gets you the charger box, 32 EU per tick, one slot. The battery box is 3 chests, a couple of circuits, and one of those original charger boxes. Same thing, except 4. Now notice that the EU per pulse and the EU per tick and the EU storage didn't go up. It only has 4 slots now, but that means you can put 4 batteries in there. Not only that, you can also put energy crystals in there. If you happen to have them, you can put labotrons in there, or you can even put labotronic energy orbs in there, and that will work. If we were to take a bat box and put it behind there, and then take ourselves a full battery and put it in the bat box, we would notice that the labotronic energy orb, after the battery's totally drained out, because remember the box itself can store 10K. We'll put that in there. And oh, the labotronic energy orb actually isn't going to work because it's the wrong tier. But if we put a battery in here, it's going to start charging. I believe you can use the energy crystals in here. Nope. Can you use lithium batteries? They're tier 1. Yep, lithium batteries will work. So, gives you a way to store extra power. Battery charger is similar. 5 more chests, the battery box, and 3 circuits get you the battery charger. Same thing except 9 slots. Still has the same storage and capacity and in and out capacity, but more storage. And the large charger is pretty much the same thing. Advanced circuit, chests, battery charger. Same thing except now it's 16. Well, obviously, it's not going to do us a whole lot of good having that much power storage if we're using like batteries and if we have to only put low voltage into it. Let's get ourselves a wrench. Let's wrench this up. 32, 32, 1,512, right? Let's put it back down and get ourselves some upgrades. Let's say 2 transformer and 2 HV. Apply transformer. Oh, it changed. If we look at it now, it's still going to say 32, 32, and 10,512, but it's got a transformer upgrade on it now. When we put it down, it's going to recognize that. This now outputs 128. And it can use energy crystals now, which we'll demonstrate by putting that in there. Okay, well, it's not using energy crystals now. Probably because energy crystals are now actually tier 3 power storage. If we put an advanced rechargeable battery in there, I bet that'll work. Yep, advanced rechargeable battery is tier 2, so that works. Let's go ahead and Put another full battery in here. Fill up that box. Right now we're filling the internal capacitor in the box itself. Let's attach another transformer upgrade. Changed again. Now it's capable of 512 at tier 3, so energy crystals will now work. Apply another one. Now we're looking at tier 4, 2048 EU per tick. Lapotron crystals will now work. One more. Now we're looking at quad EV, tier 5, Lapotronic energy orbs will now work. Bearing in mind that you still have to transform the power. So, this gives you upgradable power storage that you can basically define as much as you want. Don't have anything to do with a whole bunch of power stuff, and you don't want to waste time making higher end power stuff? Well, you can just throw all of your extra Lapotronic energy orbs in here, and now we've got crap tons of power, crap tons of storage, in a fairly cheap machine. If all you got's a bunch of batteries, that's fine too. It'll take them just as well. Okay, let's take a look at the AESU. The AESU stands for Adjustable Energy Storage Unit. The max EU per pulse in is 8,192. The max EU per pulse out is configurable by you to be anywhere between 0 and 8,192. It is a very expensive but very precise way to make sure machines get exactly the power they need, no more, no less. So if you have a whole bunch of machines on a line that can only take 32 EU per tick and you want to have a ton of storage, this is a good way to do it. It is very expensive to build though, requiring a bunch of energy flow circuits, a Lapotronic energy orb, a computer cube, and some highly advanced machine block, which takes chrome and titanium and steel. So yeah, expensive, but well worth it. This is its big brother, the IDSU, Interdimensional Energy Storage Unit. Stores a whopping 1 billion power at quad HV, or quad EV rather, 8,192 EU per tick. This is not configurable. It's even more expensive. Taking a look at it, it requires 4 of those AESUs, plus 4 iridium plates and an ender chest. What makes this so good? Well, I have another one set over here, and if you take a look at it, it has the same amount of power as the other one. Interdimensional storage units are configured by the first person to right-click on them. All IDSUs right-clicked by the same user will have the same ID, and they will share power between them, which means you can have an IDSU in a power plant somewhere in a remote location generating power and beam it back to your base using these. Now, with all of this nifty new power storage, there's got to be new ways to generate it, right? Well, there is. And that is these over here. These are your new generators. You have the diesel generator, 12 EU per pulse, runs on diesel fuel, which you can either use the diesel fuel added by Gregtech, or if you happen to have Buildcraft installed, it will run on Buildcraft fuel. So if you've got a lot of Buildcraft fuel, this will get you 12 EU per pulse for as long as it runs. The gas turbine, 16 EU per pulse. This gas turbine runs on methane, which is a byproduct of food. So if you happen to have a whole bunch of food, you can turn it into methane and then turn that into power. That's 16 EU per pulse. The thermal generator, 24 EU per pulse. This is a flat upgrade to the geothermal generator. It even uses a geothermal generator in the recipe. This, where a regular geothermal generator will produce 20 EU per tick, 20,000 EU per bucket, the thermal generator produces 24 EU per tick, 30,000 EU per bucket. So it's a rather significant upgrade over the regular generator. The semi-fluid generator runs on heavier liquids, like, for example, sodium. If you happen to have a bunch of sodium laying around, you can throw it in this thing and get 8 EU per tick out of it. The Dragon Egg Energy Siphon. No, this is not a typo. It produces 1024 EU per tick. All it requires is that you build the Dragon Egg Energy Siphon and you put the dragon egg that you get from killing the end dragon on top of it. Free, unlimited power. However, it is very expensive to build this thing. Take a look at it. And it requires a teleporter, a super condensator, which is one of the most expensive things that you can build in Gregtech, Lapatronic energy orb, a bunch of iridium reinforced plates, and some energy flow circuits. You can only ever have one of these in a world. Even if you manage to get your hands on more than one dragon egg, only one dragon egg energy siphon can exist in a world. If you try to build a second one, it will explode violently. So be aware of that. Also, if you have Buildcraft installed, this is not a clean source of energy. The Dragon Egg Energy Siphon produces ridiculous amounts of localized flux. So, if you have the Dragon Egg and you need power and you don't mind dealing with the side effects, this is a good way to generate tons of power on the cheap. The machine itself is expensive, but the power afterward, as long as you don't mind the side effects, is free. The Magic Energy Converter takes magical liquids, which I don't know if I actually have any right now. Will it take UU matter? No, it won't take UU matter. Let's see here. Do I have anything in here that would be considered a magical universal fluid cell? No. Carbon, silicon, chlorine, sodium persulfate. I don't believe I have anything that will actually run in this generator. But if you happen to have certain mods installed, I honestly can't think of any right now, but I think Liquid Ender works. If you happen to be able to pump Liquid Ender into this thing, this will allow you to convert it into energy at 24 EU per tick. Like I said, I don't know exactly what liquids work with it. This is the Magic Energy Absorber. This will take items that you have enchanted. Say, for example, we have a golden sword. And let's take a look at... Let's go ahead and enchant this thing with, say, Looting 3. Golden sword, Looting 3. There we go. If we take the Magic Energy Absorber and throw the Looting 3 sword in here, it's going to pull all of the power out of that golden sword, and it's going to transform it into energy. How much energy? Well, depends on the enchantment. In this case, it took our Looting 3 enchantment and turned it into, looks like a fairly substantial amount of power. We'll come back to this in a little bit and see exactly how much power we got. And then we have this. This is a lightning rod. The lightning rod, as you might guess, only functions during storms. You have to place the lightning rod down, which this thing in itself is pretty expensive. And then once you've placed it down, you'll notice that there's a hole on top. You have to take iron fences, and you have to stack them way up in the sky. Way up in the sky. The higher you can go, the better. Preferably the whole way up to the build limit. On the side of these, you have to have, I believe you have to have your, I don't think you have to use EV transformers. I think you use HV transformers. But you place your HV transformers on here, and then you have to, oh, not shift very quick. You have to, actually I think you have to, You have to do it this weird way. You have to have a block sitting up there and then click it onto there because the high voltage input has to be facing in all cases. So if we put that one facing in, that one facing in, like that. Then on the bottom of each one of these, you put another HV transformer that is facing up. And then connected to that, you have your cable. That allows you to pull the power out of this. Now, of course, you can just use a supercondensator, or you can have an IDSU or an ADSU attached directly to it to pull the power out of it. But if you want to transform it down to something usable, this is how you have to do it. So let's go ahead and put that in place. And that one. And that one. And that one. And that will allow you to get power from lightning. Now, it does function during the rain, somewhat. It functions better during thunderstorms. However, it has to be natural rain. If you put it in a world that is eternal weather that you get from Mistcraft, that might work. But if you're getting rain, say from, let's see, for example, if you have a charged world in Mistcraft, one of the ones that's constantly throwing lightning everywhere, that's not naturally occurring lightning. It will not work. If you have Thaumcraft and you're getting localized lightning strikes due to Thaumcraft energies, that will not work. It has to be naturally occurring lightning from a thunderstorm. It has to be either raining or thundering in the world. So, that, we've got our coal boiler and our small coal boiler over here fully heated now. Notice that it's still burning through that initial stack of coal. It produced a lot of steam, right? Well, let's find a way to store that steam. Let's take our bronze fluid pipes, and let's just connect them over to here. Just like that. Well, you'll notice that this thing is a quantum tank. We'll come back to this in just a second here, because we really probably should start with the basics. You have to have new storage types, right? You can't just use regular chests. Well, that's why you have the digital chest. If you right-click on this, you'll notice it says 0 of stone, right? Well, if we take a piece of stone, and we right-click on it, it's going to put the stone in there. Now we have 1 of stone. If we, preferably not punch the digital chest in creative mode, if you take a look at the description here, it says 8 times better than a barrel. The barrel that it's referring to is the factorization barrel, which stores 64 stacks of 64 of any type of item. However, it can only store 1 type of item. The digital chest is very much the same. It can only store 1 type of item. In this case, it's the first type of item that you right-click it with. If you then left-click it, you'll get the item back out. Potentially a stack at a time. We got 65 stone in there. Now we can get 64 back out. We'll put the stone back in. And we can now tell we've got 65 of stone in there. If we pull everything out, well, it's set for stone. You can't place anything else in it because it's already set for stone. In order to replace it, you have to wrench it off and replace it in order to clear its buffer. Now, it can store, for example, fluid pipes. The quantum chest is an upgrade. This can hold whatever the heck 8 times 64 is. 8 times 64 times 64 items can fit in a digital chest. So, lots of storage, but Say you've got gigantic, huge quarries going, and you have hundreds of thousands of cobblestone laying around, and you just don't know what to do with it all. That's where this bad boy comes into play. This is the quantum chest. The quantum chest can store 2 million of any type of item. It can only store one type of item, but it can store 2 million of it. Now, the digital chest and the quantum chest are fairly expensive, and they do both require a small passive power input in order to function. If you're not providing power to it, you won't be able to pull the items back out. The quantum tank is very similar to the quantum chest, except it stores fluids instead of power, or instead of items. The quantum tank can store, I believe, it said it can store 488.28125 chunks. Now, when it's talking a chunk, it's talking 16 by 16 to the world limit. So if you were to somehow flood 488 chunks, bedrock to build limit, with water, and pump it all up, you could fit all of that into a single quantum tank. Holy crap, and it only takes up one space. You think railcraft tanks are awesome? Check this badass out. Now, as far as getting stuff out of it, I don't know how to do it with the bronze fluid pipes. But, I mean, very few people are using mods where you don't have like Buildcraft, thermal expansion, or something else that handles fluid mechanics. I recommend using those to get it back out, and to put it in the first place, actually. But still, quantum tank, massive amounts of storage, tiny little space, very expensive. Platinum plates, quantum chest, energy flow circuits. The quantum chest itself takes highly advanced machine blocks and data orbs and all this crazy stuff. Wow. So yeah, tons of storage, very expensive, small space. I don't believe that this does have a power requirement, though. I could be wrong. If it does, it's very small. So just be aware, you may have to supply some power for this thing to work, but if you can afford the expense, it'll store millions of buckets for you. And that's going to take us over to the last couple of machines here, which don't really fall under any other classification. We have the Gregtech computer cube, which, let's get ourselves a bat box and a charger box, and let's get ourselves an LV solar panel. I'll get to that in just a second here. The panels are going to be the last thing I'm going to cover for this episode. Put the charger box on here. For right now, let it be known that if you take an LV solar panel and you apply it to the top of a Gregtech machine, it will allow that Gregtech machine to passively generate power in the sun. The Gregtech computer cube, once it's actually powered, doesn't seem to be working for me. Let's try this again. Still doesn't work. Maybe because I'm in creative? Or maybe he took the functionality for this thing out and it's just a component of other things now. Oh well. We'll skip that. In previous versions, this was basically the Gregtech encyclopedia. It had information on all of the different Gregtech items. It had information on building nuclear reactors and fusion reactors and stuff like that. It was basically your go-to encyclopedia. Let's skip it. Sonictron. Sonictron allows you to place notes on here, and then if you provide a redstone signal, it'll play them. Hey! Notice there's a record in there? It's playing the record. Alright, the electric rock breaker. Why is the industrial electrolyzer here? We don't need that. The electric rock breaker basically works exactly. Let's break that. There. The electric rock breaker is basically a cobblestone generator. Get yourselves a bucket of lava, bucket of water. We'll put the water bucket there. Put the lava bucket not there. Put the lava bucket there. And I totally did this wrong. That's going to produce cobblestone for us. Let's provide this with some power, courtesy of a bat box. Charger box, and one of those LV panels. That box, charger box, LV panel, and I don't know if this requires a redstone signal or not. Invert redstone, don't invert redstone. Emit redstone if it contains. Emit energy to output side, don't emit energy. This is why I should test things before I mess with them, because I'm honestly not entirely sure how this works. I thought I knew how it worked. Apparently I was wrong. Maybe. Let's try this. Let's fill that in. Fill that in. Let's build ourselves a cobble gen right here. The water there. Put the lava there. Nope, apparently that doesn't work either. Again, this is why I should test things before I mess with them too much. But the electric rock breaker, if you can figure out how to work it, is a cobble gen. That's basically all it does. Crop harvester. Well, it should be pretty obvious what this does. It harvests crops. You know what? This thing's going to annoy me until I figure it out. Let's try orienting this thing a different way. We'll get to the whole panel thing in just a minute, I promise. I really should test these things before I try them. Oh well. So, I don't know what I did. I don't know how this thing works, but if you can make it work, it is a cobble gen. So, take it for what it's worth. Crop harvester. Take crop sticks. yourself a hoe. Till the ground. Make sure you got water near it. Plant yourself some crop sticks. Plant yourself some seeds. I don't know if this works or not in crop sticks. Nope, not really. But this thing, if powered, will keep an eye on the crop sticks that are in front of it and harvest it when it's done. Pretty neat. Kind of like a crop patron. Except specifically working with crop sticks. This is the scrap boxinator. Feed it scrap boxes, it'll generate a random item and spit it out. Basically, it's just a way to automate processing of scrap boxes in case you don't feel like holding a bunch of them in your hand and processing them that way. Red is the output side. I don't think it matters what side it's input into. I don't think there's a green side on it. Nope. So, feed it scrap boxes. Probably feed it a little power. This is part of the reason I don't usually mess with some of these machines. Oh, there we go. The scrap box produced something. There's a valid place to output to. It'll output. And that's what we got out of our 64 scrap boxes. We got 37 scrap, 3 paper, some charcoal dust, we got some netherrack dust, some calcite, some dirt. We did get a basic circuit board, which is kind of cool. We got some copper cable. But yeah, if you're producing tons of scrap and you want to automate the transfer of your scrap into scrap boxes to put it back in your inventory, Scrap Boxinator will do that for you. Now, the last thing that I'm going to cover this episode, because this episode has run ridiculously long and we actually still have a lot of stuff to cover. The last thing I want to cover after I go through and wipe out my inventory is the different cover plates that are available in Gregtech. We're going to keep this charger box here because we're going to put this down and use it as an example for some stuff. If we take a look, we have iron plates and dense iron plates and diamond plates. Yes, you can actually get diamond plates. And you can apply these plates to machines. If you do that, they're just decorative, but they do prevent you from interacting with the machine on that side. It will also prevent cables from connecting on that side. So if you need to isolate a machine from a network, you can use a cable to do that. Pretty neat. Anytime you have a machine with a plate on it, you can use a crowbar to remove that plate. It does use a little bit of durability out of the crowbar if you're not in creative mode, but that's how you do it. If we take a look down here, we will see there are a lot of different things. There is a conveyor module, a pump module, a solar panel, an item transport valve, drains, and redstone liquid detectors, and redstone item detectors, and energy oil upgrades. Each one of these covers, if applied to a machine, has an effect. For example, putting a solar panel on here will allow it to generate power in the sun. LV lets it generate at 80 U per tick. MV is 64. HV is 512. I don't know why it's 64 for MV and 8 for LV, but it is. The pneumatic generator upgrade allows this to accept Minecraft joules instead of EU. So if you're producing tons of Buildcraft power, this upgrade allows you to, well, let's go apply it on an actual machine. Let's put it on put it on plate bending machine. This plate bending machine will now accept Buildcraft power. You can use a drain. Put it on the top of the machine. This machine will now be able to function in the rain without any chance of explosion. Yes, Gregtech machines will explode if exposed to rain. Make sure they are indoors. But this will now allow it to collect the rainwater. You can put a redstone liquid detector on these, and it'll output redstone if it's storing liquid. Redstone energy meter, you can put that on here. And let's say we put this on a bat box. Or let's put it on the charger box. We get ourselves the redstone energy meter. Apply that to this side of the machine. Get ourselves some redstone dust. And now, this thing is going to output redstone based on the amount of power it's storing. Let's give it a full battery. Not a cover plate. If we give it a full battery, it's now going to output redstone because it's storing power. You can see the redstone is still lit up. That's because the internal capacitor on this thing is filled. If we put an energy storage upgrade on it, apparently energy storage upgrades won't work. On the charger boxes anyway. Let's put an energy crystal upgrade on it. This should work. No, apparently not. Oh well. Maybe because it's only the tier 1 box, it might have to be the tier 2 in order to be able to accept those upgrades. Regardless, you can see the idea. It emits more redstone, the more power that is stored. We'll put the same upgrade on our AESU over here. And run some redstone from it. We're going to see that it is not going to output any redstone at the moment because the amount of power that's stored in here is so small that it can't even really detect it. Same with the AESU. If I was to attach anything to this right now, it wouldn't output anything because the proportion of power that is on this thing is less than 1/16 of its total energy, so it can't output any energy. Pretty neat stuff. Let's see, what other things are there? There's a lithium battery upgrade. We've already seen the transformer upgrades. The lock upgrades. Makes the machine private for the one who applies the upgrade. If I don't want anyone being able to access this charger box but me, I can put a lock upgrade on it. Now nobody except me can access this machine. Steam upgrade. Allows machines to consume steam at 2 millibuckets per EU. Put this on a machine that wouldn't normally accept steam, say for example the distillation tower. We can now pump steam into this instead of EU and allow this to consume steam. Now, it's going to use a lot of steam because it uses 2 millibucket per EU. If you're running a machine that requires 500 EU per tick, it's going to use a bucket every tick. It's going to use a ton of power, a ton of steam. But if you have a ton of steam, you can make it run on steam. The quantum chest upgrade. This is very specific to the digital chest that we were exploring earlier. If you take a digital chest and right-click it with a quantum chest upgrade, it becomes a quantum chest. Pretty neat. Let's see, what else do we have? We have redstone energy cell upgrade, which if you put this on there, it adds 100,000 Minecraft joules to the energy capacity. Basically, it's like, you have to have thermal expansion installed in order for this to work, by the way. It's like adding a redstone energy cell to these machines. Active machine detector. If you put this on a machine, the machine will output redstone if it has work to do. Easy way to tell if your machines are operating or not. Redstone machine controller. If you put it on a machine, it will no longer work if it receives a redstone signal. Easy way to turn your machines off if you don't want them to do anything. Crafting module. A workbench on a cover. Take this, apply it on there. Now you have a workbench on top of your machine. Pretty cool. Steam upgrade, we've already covered. Steam tank increases the internal steam capacity so you can store steam in there. Redstone receiver receives signals, receives out signals, transmits signals, transmits out signals. This is like wireless redstone, I believe. Redstone conductor throughputs it. It allows it to pass through unhindered. Signalizer applies a constant redstone signal to a machine. So if you have, for example, I don't know if it'll work or not, but let's get ourselves the induction furnace from Industrial Craft. Put him down over here. Nope, you can't apply it. But if you want to put a constant redstone signal on a machine for some reason, you can use this cover and that'll apply a constant redstone signal. We're almost done. The LV solar panel, the MV, and the HV, we've already covered those. These panels are almost universally made in the assembly machine. Crafting table and an aluminum plate gives you the crafting module. Solar panel is silicon plate, glass pane, carbon plate, and all that. Make the solar panel. The LV solar panel, it's actually disabled. You can't craft it. But active machine detector is a redstone comparator and an iron plate. Pneumatic generator upgrade is a steel gear and a generator. Energy crystal upgrade, aluminum plate, energy crystal. So basically, just takes the machine things that you're wanting to add to it, applies it to a nice convenient plate form so that you can stick it on the machines. Wow, this has been a long video. So hopefully I didn't overwhelm you, because we still have quite a bit to cover. That's going to be in the next 2 videos though. I'm going to cut this video here and get it rendering. I'm fully expecting that this is probably going to be a 2-hour long video, which is really crazy. But yeah, I'm going to call it quits for now. I will be back at some point in the not terribly distant future with Gregtech 102, where we will cover more on fluid and item transfer, and some more of the machines that I did not cover this time. Then after that, we will do 103, wherein we will craft ourselves a fusion reactor, and show everything that goes along with that. For right now though, peeps, I need to take a break. This has been Night Dagger with How the Heck Do I Gregtech 101. Hopefully you guys learned something from this. If you did, please be sure to leave comments, like, subscribe, favorite, all that wonderful stuff. I'll catch you later, peeps.